Oh, why hello there, Jacob here, and today I have a hodgepodge pickup video to share with you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So yeah, reason why I say this is a hodgepodge pickup is because, well, not only do I have, well, what arguably might be, I know I say this a lot, but this is probably one of the most unique, if not one of the best pieces in my collection. But I also have a few odds and ends stuff that I need to, that I should say that I picked up over the last few weeks or so that I kind of want to just go ahead and show, because I don't think I've shown either of these, including something, ironically enough, that just showed up yesterday that was, well, kind of a mention in one of my last videos. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, yeah. Also, again, apologies, still kind of dealing with a little bit of a head cold, if you can't tell or hear. Yeah, this weather, man, I'm just waiting for it to officially turn to spring and then just move on. Anyway, with all that out of the way, I do apologize if you hear a cough or a little bit of a fit here, so, yeah. Anyway, on to the actual pickups of the video. The first thing I will show you is actually what I'm wearing on my head. And this was the main pickup from the game that I went to with, well, my uncle and my dad. Even though, unfortunately, my uncle could only make it because my dad got sick. But anyway, regardless, that was a fun game to go to. It was against Dallas, in which the Wild won 2-1 into overtime. So, the particular item that I'm going to share with you is a starter snapback that I got at the pro shop. I mean, nothing too fancy or anything like that. It has the Minnesota crown, has the Wild logo underneath. It's a red bill, gray under, with, well, I guess sort of black guts, if you may say. And also it has on the side here, 2000, the starter logo. So yeah, I figured with it being like the 25th anniversary and stuff like that, just a nice little starter snapback, because, well, if you know anything about starter and stuff like that, they're pretty much known as one of the big throwback slash, well, basically like a throwback company in like the 90s and stuff like that, when starter jackets, starter hats were all the rage. Now they've kind of made a little bit of a comeback and stuff like that, so hey, why not, It's a nice hat, it fits. I've rocked this thing several times, and yeah. So anyway, on to pickup number 2, and that actually has to do with my 2004 All-Star jersey. Not only did I say, hey, I got my Dwayne Rollison Minnesota Wild Western Conference All-Star jersey, but there was also a die-cast car that came along with it. And I kind of tongue-in-cheek said, maybe I'll probably pick up this die-cast at some point or whatever. I mean, it's only like $20. Well, ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 1. That is right, I actually got my hands on the Jeremy Mayfield 1/24th scale of the Minnesota All-Star game back in 2004. And yeah, for those of you who may or may not remember, before I got into the jersey game, I was a huge NASCAR fan, die-cast car collector. And still to this day, I collect here and there bits and pieces. But for the most part, it's primarily like jerseys, hats, and like sports gear. But every once in a while, I'll pounce on like a die-cast car or something. And I figured, well, since I kind of hinted that I was, looking at getting one of these die-casts anyway, just because I love this paint scheme, even though Jeremy Mayfield, during the Busch Clash, kind of blew a tire, for lack of a better term. It crashed into the wall. But, yeah, I mean, overall, this is a beautiful die-cast. Has an opening hood. Has an opening trunk. But this was the year before they made the well, I guess we want to call the keep down straps or what. I'm trying to remember exactly what they call that, but roof flaps. There we go. The roof flaps that actually keep the car, or at least try to keep the car on the ground if you start spinning and going airborne. And then it has the red tires, Goodyear, with the sponsors. And this beautiful design down the side, and the design down this side as well. So yeah, I know it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment at the time, but literally was just perusing eBay, and I literally found that thing for like 20 bucks, and I figured, well, why not, you know? It's not every day you see other memorabilia of, like, you know, one of your favorite team's all-star games, especially of a NASCAR diecast, because for those of you who know a little bit about NASCAR, the all-star game for the NHL happens about 2 weeks before Daytona, give or take. Usually about a week or two before Daytona, just kind of depends on whatnot. So a lot of times if they do stuff like this, it'll be for like the Busch Clash or the Gatorade 125s at the time. Basically like the pre-races before the actual Daytona 500. But, yeah. And also, if you know the story about Jeremy Mayfield, it's actually kind of a tragic one, what happened to him. So if you want to look that up sometime, I mean, the dude's a great dude, and I actually have quite a few diecasts from him. But anyway, to wrap that part up, now we are on to the pièce de résistance. That is right, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for, the jersey. And this particular jersey is a, how do I want to phrase this? This is basically a revolutionary style of jersey. And I will show you what that means here. Again, hailing from eBay, which, by the way, the diecast car was also from eBay. And as I mentioned before, the hat that I got was from the Minnesota Wild Team store. But anyway, moving on to the jersey. This is another all-star game jersey. This particular all-star was a very special all-star because, well, I'll just go ahead and show it to you. Hailing from the Western Conference in 3, 2. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 2007 NHL Western Conference All-Star jersey from the Dallas All-Star Game. And this is a name and number of, at the time, defenseman for the Calgary Flames, Dion Phaneuf, which also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're kind of around my channel for the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years or so, that name will sound familiar because of an unboxing I did here about 4 years ago. When I finally completed my collection of one of all 32 teams, I ended up getting a Dion Phaneuf Reebok Premier. And now, after I sold that here about 2 or 3 years ago, I ended up getting this. So yeah, we'll go ahead and kind of dive into it. So yeah, and the reason again why this one is a very, very special All-Star game is because if you remember right, this was the All-Star game that they released the Edge template. This was the game that Reebok and the NHL decided to show off their new Reebok Edge 1.0, which, again, real quickly, lasted all of like 6 months or something like that, but before they went to the 2.0 and the current kind of fabric style we know today. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. And again, I do apologize, still kind of going through the head cold, as I mentioned again, but this jersey is absolutely beautiful. So first and foremost, this is a team-issued Reebok Edge 1.0 2007 All-Star Game jersey, and this is actually indeed the 1.0, size 58, has the NHL shield with the weird Reebok V collar that I know a lot of teams use. I know that Colorado used it, Minnesota used it, as well as other teams used this sort of V, like deep V-neck, for lack of a better term. And then the jersey material itself is indeed the 1.0 material. So it's like a sweatshirt sort of, yeah, like a sweater type material. Has the NHL Western Conference crest on the front, which I think is actually, yep, stitched into the jersey. And then you go off to the side over here. The Calgary Flame logo is stitched onto the jersey. The 3, which is double stitched onto the shoulders. The double stitched star with the stripes. And then you go over onto this side, has the All-Star Game logo, which is also stitched in. And again, the double stitched 3 with the double stitched star. And then as you go down here, the stars, which are also stitched. And then on the back has the Reebok Vector, Fanoof, which is single stitched onto the nameplate. The nameplate is sewed in, but the name isn't, which is actually pretty common. Like, they won't sew the actual name in for, I guess if they have to like change out the nameplates on jerseys and stuff like that. And then also has the double stitched 3 on the back. And also the fight strap with the stitching of the stars. So yeah, this is a Dion Phaneuf 2007 Western Conference All-Star jersey, which again kind of shaped the jersey and jersey collecting game and community for, well, ever, really. I mean, because this was again the time that they actually shared their new template. So yeah, that'll basically conclude this video. And again, my apologies. Whatever this is not clearing up really easily. It's just been such a weather nightmare over these last several weeks. But so I think before I get too much more, we'll just go ahead and call it here. And until we meet again, this is Jacob. Have a good one.